Good evening and welcome to the 7th program in our series on the ForeFlight EFE. My name is Mike Jesh. I'm a flight instructor in the Southern California area and an avid user and teacher of ForeFlight. Just a couple quick notes before we get started tonight. The previous workshops are sort of prerequisite to this one tonight, but you're still going to learn a lot tonight even if you haven't watched the previous ones. I encourage you to, at your next opportunity, go visit the ForeFlightWorkshops.com website and take a look at the prior episodes, and you're sure to pick up a lot of. Tonight's program is going to be a little continuation on some of our flight planning techniques that we've done. Brian showed me what he has in store for you tonight. We're going to look at some interesting way to plan what could be a bit of a challenging flight. But the main part of tonight's program is going to be a deep dive into the ForeFlight documents section. We're going to show you a lot of great ways that you can use the ForeFlight documents to make sure you have all the available information that you need for your flight. So without any further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce my friend and co-worker, Captain Brian Schiff. Brian, come on in and join the party.
I'd like to thank our sponsors, our supporters, I should say. A lot of these companies have really done a lot to help us quite a bit in supporting and offering giveaways and things like that. Tonight, we're going to have a few giveaways. We'll have, again, a Gold Seal 2 lifetime courses. You can choose private or instrument. Again, another NAFI 1-year membership, which entitles you to a lot of great content. NAFI is the National Association of Flight Instructors, and of course that is not just for flight instructors, like the name implies. There's a lot of great educational content in there that NAFI provides, and also is quite an advocate for flight instructors and pilots all over the country when there are issues that need our attention. We're large and growing and very supportive of flight instructors. Not to mention the great discounts that you get, including on ForeFlight, which is like 33% off of your ForeFlight plan. We'll also give away an Ultimate Pilot Logbook. That's a great logbook. It's got all the columns that you wish you had, no crossing out of other columns to make custom columns, endorsements. It's really organized and laid out well, and you can check that out on ultimatepilotlogbook.com. These are from friends of mine who all help provide this stuff. Again, with our disclaimer, we're not affiliated with ForeFlight, if you can read that. We don't receive anything from ForeFlight. We're just some experienced users sharing our knowledge, paying it forward, and giving back to the industry. The practices that we give you are just practices, they're just that, they're techniques. We'll cover some, cross-country planning, some regulations. The things that we do cover are going to be very informative, but it's always incumbent upon you not to violate FARs and to make sure that you're doing and operating your flight as safe as possible. Right, Mike?
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. Well, you sound like you're pretty clear.
Yeah, something's weird.
It's almost like you're
sitting in the same room.
It is like that. You sound really clear. You got a new microphone or something like that?
Yeah, it's a fancy one. I just saw it laying on my desk here.
Hey.
So. Oh, hey, Brian.
Oh, my gosh. Welcome, Mike. As it would be, Mike is in Dallas-Fort Worth area for his recurrent training, and we thought we'd have a little fun. In any event, this program, we're spending a lot of money to put this together on Zoom. And again, I'm trying to get away from Zoom because I know toward the end we get some latency. There's some issues with Zoom. It's a little complex, and I may go just straight to YouTube and do this on our own. But for now, we're paying for that. And again, we appreciate, we're not asking, it's not required. We're giving back. These are free webinars. But if we receive more than what it costs us to cover our costs, again, we're going to donate it to an aviation charity like the 99s. They do a lot of great educational content for their members. They do a lot of support for their members. And of course, they've got some wonderful scholarship programs that those funds go to. And I'm really appreciative of the 99s for supporting us. I know a lot of you here tonight are 99s, and you're probably getting bombarded by the emails that I know that they are so kind as to send out, which has really helped get a lot more attention on this. So thank you for putting up with that. Thank you for anything you can offer. We truly appreciate that. Tonight's flight plan, we're going to go over some questions and comments again. We'll talk about what's new in ForeFlight. we'll plan a flight. I'm going to start planning a flight, and I'd like to encourage you to ask questions. And so I'd like that to be a little bit more driven by you. We'll start planning this flight, and we'll see um, what kind of issues come up, what kind of questions come up, and we'll try to answer them as we go. I think we'll get into the Documents tab. There's a lot you can do to really help organize yourself to make this a true EFB, lighten your load, not have to carry as many manuals and books around with you, and then you can be more efficient in finding information as well. So we'll go through that. We'll do our giveaways toward the end, and then we'll take some questions and comments. And if you're watching the recording of this program, there'll be a QR code at the end for a quiz for Wings Credit. If you're here live right now on Zoom, you'll automatically receive Wings Credit, like Mike said. So you need to do nothing. Just make sure in a week, if you don't have it, reach out to us and we'll check into that. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, there'll be a link tomorrow in the description of the recording of this presentation for the short quiz that will get you your Wings Credit. So without further ado, let's move into it and let's look at some of the questions and comments that we've received. Tamara says, can I reorganize the tabs at the bottom of ForeFlight? And the answer is yes. And I think the easiest way for me to do that is to show it on the iPad. So let me go to the iPad here, and you can see these tabs on the bottom, I think is what she's talking about. So you just click on More, and right here, Edit Tab Order. And if you tap on that, you can slide. Right now you can see I have Maps and then Airports. Look down here, you see I have Maps, then Airports. Well, I can put Airports first by dragging this up to the top and then clicking on Save. And now you can see Airports is first and then Maps. So you can customize that to your preferences. Down here at the bottom, just remember that this tab right next to the More is going to be the last place that you went. Last place I went was custom content. Last place that you went, last tab that's not down here on the bottom. So I tap on More, and if I go to the Aircraft tab, for example, and then I go back to Maps, you'll see Aircraft is the last one here. It's a dynamic button that basically takes you back to the last place you were. So that's kind of cool as well. The other question that was asked is, can I move the tabs to the top, the tabs menu to the top? And the answer to that is no. That's stuck at the bottom right now. There was a conversation on the Facebook group ForeFlight users, and someone had asked that, and I said all you got to do is lock the rotation and then turn your iPad upside down and you'll have the tabs across the top. And some people thought I was serious about that, but if you fly inverted, then it might work. In any case, you're going to be reading everything upside down if you do that. But right now, seriously, there is no way to put the tabs up on the top. They have to stay at the bottom. There may be one day. Henry asks, what are the numbered circles on my route? Well, that's a good one, and that one comes up a lot. The answer is operational notes, and I'll show you on the iPad, and they can be turned off. So let me switch over to the iPad again, and I'll put it, see if I can make it full screen here. In any event, if we just do a quick cross-country flight that's pretty long, like KLAX to, let me try this again, KLAX or S to JFK, for example. There's a long flight, and right now I don't have those notes, but let me go ahead and turn them on. I can go to the quick settings menu, and they are operational notes right here. I have them turned off, so if I turn them on, you'll see that I get them. And basically, anytime you enter someone else's airspace, it's going to give you some information and show you their airspace. So I click on ball note number 6. It shows you the airspace of Minneapolis Flight Information Region, also known as Minneapolis Center. The upper limit is 18,000 feet. Lower limit is the surface. So that's the lower part of Minneapolis Center. Obviously would exclude the airspaces that would be approach control down low within those as well. If I click on ball note number 7, it highlights down here, and that's Kansas City Flight Information Region, and it's from the surface to 17,999 feet, and that's because this particular flight is planned at 6,000 feet. If I were to plan it at say I get the wrong airplane to go that high, but if I planned it at a higher altitude, I have it capped off in my settings, then you'll see the upper regions show up here. But I think they're kind of a nuisance. I generally don't need them, so I go to the quick settings menu and I'll go to the operational notes and turn them off. And that gets rid of those balls. So that was the question that was asked on that one. I'm going to go ahead and clear this flight plan because we're going to do a different one later. Okay, so back to the monitor 2. So, okay, they can be turned off, and I just showed you that. So Joe says, should I include oil? And this was from last month when we were doing the weight and balance. This came up afterwards, and several people were asking, you know, do I include the oil and the unusable fuel in the aircraft entry weight in ForeFlight weight and balance? The answer is yes. Anything that normally stays in the airplane, you should put in the entry weight for aircraft entry weight in ForeFlight and the weight and balance, so that you don't have to add them every time, because they're always going to be on board. You're always going to have the unusable fuel and the oil on board, hopefully. Any other questions you have, let's just be sure to send them to us, ForeFlightWorkshops.com. I'm sorry, ForeFlightWorkshops@gmail.com, or you can send us a message through the website, ForeFlightWorkshops.com. We'll be referring to 3 plans: the basic, the pro, and the performance. Most of the really cool features are pro and performance, or pro and above is what some people say. The basic, if you see some features we talk about and you don't have it, it's because it's part of the Pro Plus or the Performance Plus. And you can see that there are some features on there. And you got to decide, is that something I want or something worth paying for or not? But if you are a NAFI member and you can join with this coupon code. For $49, you can join with a coupon code of S49. You get a lot of great educational content. You'll see a lot of what we're doing, more webinars, seminars, a lot of great content that NAFI's putting out online on our social media, and not to mention the great magazine, but also these discounts. You can see for $49, if you have Performance Plus plan, you're going to get $120 off. So you can end up profiting in that way. This just came out today. I had to update this slide. You can see it came out on 11.6. ForeFlight Mobile was compatible with iOS 17.1. That happened a week or so ago. But what happened today is now Garmin Pilot is compatible. And this is on iPad. It's Sporty's iPad website is where you can see this. I've also keep this up to date on the ForeFlightWorkshops.com website. Although I haven't gotten this one updated yet because it just happened today. You can check compatibility with all of these different apps with the iOS. And you certainly don't want to update your iOS if you're using one of these before the company that makes the app has determined that their app is compatible with the iOS. And especially don't do this right before a flight. So again, tonight we'll look at what's new in ForeFlight. There's not a whole lot new. There are some features that have been improved kind of behind the scenes. Some of the logbook functions have been improved. Apparently this slide is changing by itself. So I'm going to keep fighting it. There we go. The Part 141 progress tracking on ForeFlight Mobile is now, come on, I can't stop this. Part 141, if you're attending a Part 141 school, I'm going to keep clicking. You can track your progress on ForeFlight Mobile now, not just the ForeFlight web like you had to do before. Endorsement feature is fixed, and also if you run reports, you're going to see that they run a little bit slower now because of the computations that are happening in ForeFlight Mobile on that. If you look at the book, the change history shows that there's some new some new intersection takeoff options for runway analysis customers. That's in the Performance Plus, and some new standard instrument departure and arrival labels. Well, let's move on to planning a flight. If you have questions that come up, ask away, and they're gonna look and feed for the questions that are really pertinent to what we're doing, and feed them to me. And we'll talk about and try to answer some questions. You may even not have questions, but a better tip to do something another way or better than I'm doing. Please know that many things on the iPad can be done in a number of ways. And I'm just going to try to show more of a variety on here. So for today's flight, I'd like to, and I've got it started out in the aeronautical map. And I have these filters shown on the screen. See these filter buttons right here. And I have them turned off for a reason, but you can see I can select these filters and they'll start showing up on the chart as I select and deselect them. But right now I've got them all deselected. If you don't see them, then go to, with aeronautical charts selected, and that's the only map layer that I have selected right now, go to the Quick Settings tab and scroll down to the aeronautical chart settings. You can see them right here. And those will not appear on this settings menu if you don't have the aeronautical layer turned on. So turn on aeronautical layer, go to the quick settings, scroll to aeronautical, and you'll see quick filters right here. If I turn them off, you'll see they disappear. And I'll toggle them back and forth so you can see what's happening. What I'm getting by turning that on and off is those buttons on the left side of ForeFlight. I'm going to leave them on, and while they're on, I have none of them selected. You can see if I select airports, the airports will show up. I want none of them on right now. I just want a clean slate here, and we're going to plan a flight. So I'm going to start with the flight plan drawer, the FPL button here, and I'm going to tap here to create a route, and I got a cursor in there. So I'm going to type the first point. We're going to go from Palmdale to Mammoth, California, and Palmdale is KPMD, Kilo Papa Mike Delta, space, and then Kilo Mike Hotel, KMMH, and enter, and you'll see that we get the route, a direct route between those 2 points. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and select the airplane I plan on flying, and I'm going to select my Citabria, and it's going to automatically populate the normal performance profile, because that's the default profile I've chosen for this airplane. It's going to choose the default altitude, which may or may not be appropriate for this flight. And then, of course, we'll have the straight line between the two. So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and turn the terrain on. Let's see what we've got if I turn the terrain filter on right here. It looks like a couple of mountains. I'm going to turn that on, and now you can see that this flight is going over the mountains. As you can see, if I zoom in, oops, I'm going to clear this. It's left over from before. Hide plate. I'm not sure I like that. That's a pretty long ways to fly over the mountains, and we got a pretty good, perfectly good valley. One to the west over here, and we got this Owens Valley right here, which sometimes looks inviting to a lot of people because you can go right up to Mammoth, and you're already, there's no mountain crossing to do once you fly up the Owens Valley. If there's any westerly flow here, I've gotten some of the worst turbulence in my life flying a small airplane up this valley. And there aren't many airports. There are plenty of fields, plenty of places to go, but I don't think you'll like the ride. So what I'd like to do is go up the Central Valley and then cross over the mountains. And let's take a look at how we're going to do that. So first of all, I've got the default profile and altitude. I know 6,500 is not going to work, but let's prove it to myself. I can tap on the profile, and I think Pro or better has that. And you can see with the terrain clearly that's not going to work. So let me just turn that back off. And I like to fly over the valley via airports. So now let's turn on airports. If I turn on airports, I can see some of the airports here. Also, if I'm zoomed in and I want to zoom to route, I've showed you this on a previous one. This button right here shows you zoom, you click on that and it'll zoom to fill your screen with your route. It'll make your route as long as it can and still fit on your screen. There's another way to do that as well. If you're zoomed in and you take 3 fingers and tap once quickly on the screen, it's also going to do the same thing. So a 3-finger single tap on your screen will do the same as pushing this zoom to route button right here. So I want to modify my route to overhead the valley and overhead these airports. I like big airports with towers and emergency equipment and services and fuel and restaurants and everything. And my favorite color is blue. So I'm going to look for blue airports, although this is only what I'm flying over. So I'm just going to take this, and you've heard the term rubber band. I'm going to drag it over here to KBFL, which is Bakersfield, and I'm going to drop it right on top of the airport. Right now we have all selected, so it's going to show me all the things near where I dropped at, including the latitude and longitude. I could select the latitude and longitude, or for situational awareness, I could just select the airport because that's what's going to show up on my flight plan. And if I have to divert it anytime, it's already in there. That's why I like to select the airport for a number of reasons. So I click on the airport and it's added to our route. You can see the purple course, by the way, is the active leg. That's the first leg from takeoff at Palmdale to landing at Bakersfield or overflight of Bakersfield. And then the next leg is blue. The remainder legs are going to be blue. So all legs are blue except the active leg, the one that's actually being navigated on, is purple. And that's important if you're going to use, for example, the HSI feature down here in the synthetic window. So I also don't want to fly this, so I'm going to continue up the valley to another blue airport. Another way to add that to my route is to just, and you can't do this in the sectional mode, but in the aeronautical chart mode you can, just tap on the airport once. And you'll see it shows up here. And you can get all kinds of airport information. You can go full screen on that airport, which will take it directly to the airports page. Just a shortcut to that. We'll go back to maps. You can see my menu is still there. I get the weather, which I don't even need to read. Green is good. I tap on the tap, and if it's really long, there's more weather, but if it's green, it's good. Of course, I'm kidding. You do want to read it. But generally speaking, the shorter it is and the greener it is, the better your forecast. And you've got all the different weather options here that for looking at the weather at Bakersfield. You can also see the winds aloft. You can look at winds, and if I'm going to pass overhead between 6,000 and 9,000 feet, you can see that they're westerly at about 3 to 6 knots, and that's as of 6:30 p.m. Of course, I can look at the forecast and look at 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time and see what happens. There's not much change. I can look at 1:30 a.m. Central Time tomorrow and see that, oh, the winds are picking up. Looks like between 6,000 and 9,000 feet, just to get an idea what's happening to the winds on this route of flight at those times. I can go back to info and you can see all the airport information. But the reason I clicked it now is I wanted to add it to my route. So I'll just go ahead and tap on this box here, add to route. And now it's a part of my route. It's not quite the order I wanted it to be. So it added it to my route all right. It added it to the end of my flight. So let's go ahead and go back to the FPL drawer, the flight plan drawer. Go to the Edit tab. And we can just take that Fresno FAT and drag it over here to before MMH. And you'll see that it'll auto-populate into the order that we selected up here. If I made a mistake, I can also grab it and just take it off the screen and let go, and poof, it's gone. And I can add it back another way. Again, so we saw rubber banding over here and dropping and selecting the airport. We saw, let me close that. We saw tapping on it and getting the add to route, and then we had to sort it out. Another thing we can do, and I wish there was a way to put a cursor in between these, between Bakersfield and Mammoth, but what you can do is you can say, I want to add Fresno after Bakersfield. So tap on Bakersfield and insert after Bakersfield and just type KFAT for Fresno and hit insert. And that's another way of inserting it into the flight plan. So now I'm at a point where I'm doing some minimal mountain crossing, and I happen to know that there's a valley here that's a little bit better. How do I know that? Not from experience, but because I looked at the roads. See this highway marker sign right here? We can turn that on and see highways. But even better than that is to go to the Layers tab and select Street Map. And now you can actually see them. And let's zoom into this mountain part here, and you can see where the valley is. And you can see where you may want to fly by following the highway, because the highway generally follows the valleys or where the rivers are. And you can see a river here and a valley, depending on what altitude that we need to do to stay off the terrain. I'm going to turn the street map back off, click out of that, and then I'm going to turn these highways off for now, and then go back to the flight plan drawer and look at the profile that I have. The You can see this isn't quite going to work at 6,500 feet, but I knew that was going to be the case. I'm going to just drag this altitude up to, what am I doing? Westbound first, then I'm making a turn eastbound. Let's take a look at this again. Zoom to route, close the drawer. I'm going westbound and then eastbound. Well, all the way to Fresno is going to be westbound, as we know is going to be even altitudes plus 500 for VFR. And then eastbound, I got to do an odd altitude plus 500 for eastbound. So go back to flight plan drawer. I'm going to select 10,500 for the first part of the flight, and you can do it here. It's hard to drag this little thing, or you can just go to edit, and we'll tap on the altitude advisor and VFR westerly, and it gives us our options. 10.5, I'll select that. Also on the altitude advisor, it shows you the different fuel burn and time en route, and whether you'll have a headwind or tailwind and how much it will be based on those altitudes. Well, how does it know when we're leaving? That's based on right now. Those are current winds. Why? Because we don't have an estimated time of departure. If we're going tomorrow and we're going to depart around noon, we can set that in here and it will use forecast winds to get that. And you'll notice that right now we don't have an ETA because it doesn't know when we're leaving. It's 2 hours and 2 minutes. Let's see what happens if we put noon tomorrow. You saw that the winds are going to be increasing out of the west. It's going to give us a tailwind for the second part of that flight. But let's go ahead and put an estimated time of departure by selecting ETD. We're going to select tomorrow's date, and we're going to change this to 12 p.m. by sliding this up to 12, down to 00. We're going to leave right at 12, not a.m., but p.m., and then close this window. Now we have 12 p.m. Notice this is on Pacific time, even though I am not in the Pacific time zone. Well, that's where the departure point is, and that's what time it will be when I'm leaving there at Pacific time. So you'll now see it's 5 minutes longer, and the ETA, if we take off at noon, will be 2:06 p.m. Interesting that 2 hours and 7 minutes, but we'll get there at 2:06. So I'm not quite sure where that extra minute went, but that's kind of an interesting factor. But I wanted to go through and show some different ways of doing it, show some of the features. If I now look at the profile, well, I'm going to clear all of this airspace here, terrain. I'm sorry, we're going to clear the terrain here, climbing to 10.5, all the way up the valley, not a big deal. I like how high I am over Bakersfield and Fresno, but obviously crossing the mountains, I've got a problem right here. You can see that I'm going to strike the terrain, and here I'm going to be uncomfortably close to terrain at this point. So where is that on my map? I can kind of zoom into that leg where I know it is. I can tap in this window and drag my finger along, and you can kind of see the little marker going across the route, and where it turns yellow and red. Well, that's a problem right here, and I can zoom in on that, and that's where I'm going to hit that. Somewhere in this corridor, the terrain is protruding my altitude by that much. Well, how wide is my corridor? Maybe I've got that set way too wide, because I can fit in some pretty narrow canyons and valleys. Well, to change the width of that corridor, you go to the settings button right here in the profile view. And again, I apologize if you only have the basic version of this and you don't have this feature. If you want it, you'd have to upgrade, but if you have the Pro or better, you will see this. And see where it says corridor width is 5 nautical miles. Well, I don't need to be looking 5 nautical miles wide. Let's just back this down to a half a mile wide. And you can see, well, even at a half a mile, go back out of that and close it, I still have a problem with terrain here. One thing you can also do is, we know that we can fly around these peaks. I think we know that. Maybe we don't. We can see how high do we have to fly. Well, I have to go higher at this point anyway, after Fresno, because I'm now flying eastbound after Fresno. So I need to be at an odd altitude. Well, how can I make that portion of the flight an odd altitude? We'll just click on Fresno. We're going to come over here and click on More, and you'll see an option called Set Altitude, Speed, Time. So I'm going to tap on that. And after Fresno, I want to climb to 11.5. So I'm going to start my climb at Fresno to 11,500. And I'll type that in there. You can see that showed up on the altitude advisory here. I don't have any oxygen, so I can't go higher. If I go above 12, for more than 30 minutes, I'm going to need oxygen. But let's just see what happens if I make it 13.5. I can clear that out. The keyboard not working. 13500, enter. You can see the profile went up, but I still need to descend. Well, I don't have to descend that early. I can get over the airport and spiral down, of course. And as you can see, that is not a bad idea. I can't go to 13.5. I'm going to leave this at 11.5 and see if there's another route that I can do. One piece of advice I can give you, even if you're not an IFR pilot, there's 11,500. We'll back out of here and close it, is that you can utilize the IFR routes, which are designed to avoid terrain, to plan a VFR cross country. And then when you get out there and see, well, I can cut this corner, so you can feel free to do that because you're VFR. So if we go back to the edit on the flight plan, and I want to fly a procedure into Mammoth, I want to fly an approach. So tap on procedure, and if we just we can do a VFR traffic pattern. If I add a VFR traffic pattern, it says that the winds are best for runway 27. I select 27, and I want to enter right traffic, 45, it's just right traffic, 45 degrees. It'll go ahead and paint that in there for me and draw out that route. And I can add that to my route, but that's still going to be a little difficult for me to do. And if I look at the profile, still got a problem. I can descend, maybe spin around on the 45. You're going to get out there VFR and know when it's okay to descend, but you can see we're pretty close. If I were to go back and edit this, go to procedure, and choose an approach. If you're flying IFR, it's going to keep you away from terrain. So RNAV GPS is the only approach they have to runway 27. That's best for wind. If you're connected to the internet, it's getting the wind, and it knows based on the forecast that's going to be the best runway at that time based on the forecast for the wind. And we'll pick this transition. These are transitions for the approach. You can choose vectors to final, and it'll just draw you a final approach out there. But I want to go kind of far away, fly a route, and come back into the airport over a valley. So I'm going to check nickel as the transition. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that to the route. Now that I've done that, it also put the approach plate on the chart, and you need to have the pro plan or better to put charts on the plates on the chart, I'm sorry, to show them on here. In any event, I'm going to go ahead and tap this gear and hide it because we're not really going to fly it. I just want to see my route here. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on hide plate. But this route takes me over this intersection and then at different altitudes. Notice we do have to cross above 13,000 feet here, but for how long? In any event, if we go to the profile now and look at it, lo and behold, it keeps us clear of the terrain. Just one other option, another way to utilize the ForeFlight planning to keep you clear of terrain is to utilize the IFR procedures, even if you're flying VFR. And those of you flying IFR, of course, you can utilize this for your actual flight planning. So if we go back to, if we like this route, we like what we've done. I got 10,500, then at Fresno, I'm going to climb up to 11.5, and then I'm going to follow this route. But I probably won't have to actually go all the way up here to nickel. I can probably cut this corner. If I'm VFR, my IFR, I got to stay on course and fly this route as I see fit. There are probably other ways. When I get there, I might see a better way to descend into this valley. When I get over here, I might just circle and descend in a spiral right over here. That might be a good idea as well. Again, another way you can look at that is to go back to the edit, and we can click on this globe right here and see what this route looks like. If I tap on that, and again, you've got to have the right plan for this, I'm going to go ahead and change it to, there's real time, one-time speed. It's going to show you what this flight looks like, departing straight from Palmdale. But I'm going to speed this up, and I'm going to go to 20 times normal speed. And you can see it shows us what this flight's going to look like. You can also change your view from this chase plane view to the cockpit view. If you're in the cockpit, that's what it's going to look like out front. I like to see the airplane, so we can change it to that view. You can also change, and it shows the altitude here, the layers. I want to see the cloud layers. Right now, there are no cloud layers forecast. How about turbulence? I think over the mountains, I definitely want to see that. So we'll see if there's any turbulence along the way. As we cruise along here, I'm going to advance it a little faster just to save us some time. You can drag along here. At least I thought you could. Yep, I'm going to drag along and get to the part that I care about. There's Fresno ahead, and you can see it's got the altitude in there. Whoops, let me back up. Sorry if I'm making you airsick. 11,500, so we've got climbing to 11,500 here as we head eastbound. And you will see as we get over the mountains what it looks like. And we may be clearing some of these by a pretty close margin. And maybe at this point we'd want to turn left and follow this valley where the river is along the way. But just know that you can use this to preview this arrival and what it looks like into the terrain. And here's that valley. When we get here, we can change it to 1 speed. You can look around here and see, well, this valley looks pretty good. I think I can probably circle in this valley, and there's the airport over there to my right. So just a way to look at this, see what it looks like, you know, before we had to fly there to see what it looks like, and then find out when we get there what it looks like. In any event, that's another feature, again, not available to the basic, but the Pro and above have that one. Let's see. Any questions at this point? Good.
Yeah, Brian, we got a lot of questions. If you can hear me, okay.
I got you. Yeah, say it again.
Okay. A lot of questions having to do with that setting an altitude over a fix. Would you mind showing that one more time?
Sure. So we've got 11.5, and you can see it's labeled here, 11.5 at Fresno. We're going to begin a climb to 11.5. That's what we wanted to do. So let me go back to do that. I tapped on that fix. That's where I want something to happen. If I want to begin the climb, first of all, I tap the fix and I go to more right here. And then I go to set altitude, speed, and time at that fix. So I tap on that. Now, I can cross that at 11,500, which means I need to start climbing before it so as to be at 11,500 feet by the time I get there. And it's going to use your performance profile that's stored in your aircraft settings. Or I can start my climb at that fix to 11.5. So if I look at the profile view again, you'll see I'm starting the climb, and I can zoom in on that part of the route. I'm starting the climb from 10.5 to 11.5 at the Fresno when I'm over the airport. If I cross it at 11.5, you're going to see that it's going to start that. I knew that wouldn't work. Cross it at 11.5. Let's see if I change it back. I'm set altitude, cross it at 11,000. Let me type it in again and see if that does it. We should be climbing so as to cross it at 11.5, and I'm not seeing it do that, but I would have liked to have seen that. Sometimes it does.
I think it probably is waiting for you to close that window and so it can redo its calculation.
Well,
and try closing the profile and coming back to it.
Close the profile and come back to it.
Yeah.
I'll go back to edit. I'll even close that drawer and come back to it and see what happens. Nope. Not quite sure. The idea is that it's supposed to climb so as to cross that at that altitude. You can do that at any of your fixes. Let's say down here you wanted to cross, you didn't want to fly 10.5 the whole way. You wanted to do 8,500 feet. So let's go down here to Bakersfield and say that I want to go to 8,500 first and then cross that at and then start climbing to 10.5. I'm sorry. So let's go ahead and click on Bakersfield. More. Set altitude, speed, time. And start climbing at that fix to 10,500 feet. And then back out of that. But we need to change this cruise altitude, the initial cruise altitude, down to 8,500 feet. And you can see now we're at 8,500 feet. Well, now we lost our profile. Let's get out of it and come back and see what happens. Flight plan, profile. Well, I've seen this happen before, and it has to do with that altitude that I put in there and the order I put it in. Let me look in the flight plan edit. I got 8,500 here. I think if we started this all over again, it would probably show the profile. I don't want to take the time to do that, but that's 8,500 feet to Bakersfield, and then 10.5 all the way to Fresno, and then 11.5 all the way up here to the Mammoth area. And we'd start our descent visually as we see fit. From this point, you can see, yeah.
Brian, go back to the front profile. There's 4 issues shown, so maybe that's
Oh, I'm sure the issues will probably explain it. So max usable fuel, we know that. I'm gonna say I'm gonna get a mid-air refueling. Could not cross waypoint at specified altitude due to errors. Try fixing these. We had this happen a couple workshops back, and aircraft performance unavailable. No aircraft selected. I'm not quite sure. Oh, no aircraft selected. I'm not sure. This usually will explain it. If, like I said, if we go back and start this all over again. If I select the aircraft and the profile, I could do like an efficient cruise or a high power cruise or my default. And you can see it's got a descent rate, climb rate, which we covered in a previous workshop. I'll just select this 65% power cruise, 8,500 feet. I'm just not quite sure, but we've got to cross Bakersfield at 10.5, Fresno at 11, start climbing at Bakersfield to 10.5, start climbing at Fresno to 11.5, and then this approach procedure. Again, I'm just not quite sure. There's an issue in there. If we start it over, we may get it. But that's how you set the crossing altitudes that you were asking about. And you can also put a holding pattern there. You can select the runway you're going to land on, and then of course a long track offset that just puts a point so many miles before Bakersfield. Because I had Bakersfield selected, I could select a point 20 miles prior to it, insert it, and you'll see there's a point here 20 miles prior. It's showing me the altitudes of obstacles that are along the corridor. And here's one at 730 MSL right under my path. But here's the 20-mile leg is right here. And ForeFlight crashed. Maybe the profile will work now. Nope. What I can do is, what's that?
I suspect it's because you're going past your fuel range.
Well, I don't know if that's it or not. Anyway, I'm going to clear this. Let's just clear it all. And I did save this into my saved routes, and I'm going to load it up again. So let's go to favorites and history, and I'm going to go to, we can go to recents to see what we've done recently, and it's right here. But I'm going to go to my favorites and load one that I saved right here. And let's go to profile and see if it's there. It's still not there. Not quite sure. Don't want to research it now, but in any event, you saw it when it was there before. And you can also see the turbulence near the mountains. That's here, these green areas, and yellow here near the peaks. Upslope wind right here as well. So in any event, I'm going to close out of this. Let's see. When I go back to the edit, you can see that I had exclamation point, a red ball on my pack button, which means I don't have everything I need for this flight. Now that could be maps, charts. It's going to take basically a 50-mile corridor in any state that you touch along that. If I only had California, for example, it would want to download Nevada at this point. So if you don't keep everything on board, it's going to go get what you need by packing, by clicking on this button right here. What I don't have, it's going to show you what you're missing and how much memory it's going to take. The comments for those airports, the weather, airmits, sigmits, NOTAMs, TFRs. I definitely want that. I'm going to hit download. You can do these a la carte, or you can just hit the pack button and download them all. So if I hit the pack button, you can see it's just going to download all of these things. And all important airport NOTAMs, which are a mile long, took forever. And if I close this, you'll see that the red ball is now gone off of that pack button. So now I have everything I need on board. You'll see you do have one error. altitude exceeds ceiling of 10,000. That may be my problem. On this aircraft, I put no higher than 10,000. Actually, I put higher than that. It may be because the 65% cruise is capping me at 10,000. Let's see if I do 45% power cruise. It still exceeds 10,000. I'm not quite sure why that is there. But if I were to take the whole flight and clear those crossing altitudes, for example, more, set altitude, speed, time, and I'm just going to delete this, go back, and then I'm going to go to the Bakersfield one and delete that as well. More, altitude, speed, time. Well, there's no change there because I saved this flight plan. Now you can see the error is gone. I'm doing this whole flight at 8,500 feet. However, the profile is back and you can see I'm going to hit terrain. So I'm going to have to navigate that terrain when I get there. But you can see it's there. And you can also select, I've got turbulence selected. You can also select airspace, see if we're going to hit any airspace along the way. And it looks like we're pretty clear of airspace. Okay. I'm going to go back to the edit. And now that I'm happy with this route, you noticed I had it saved before. The way that I saved it was by clicking this star right here. The way I went back to it was clicking the favorites and recents button here. But to get it there, you need to click on the star. If it's white, it's not saved. If it's yellow, it's saved. So we're going to tap on this star right here, and it's going to say, okay, you're going to save this favorite route. It's going to suggest a name, Palmdale to MMH runway 27. Hey, I'm fine with that. Let's go ahead and save that. And now it shows up on the favorites page, the favorites tab. It'd also be in recents on top because that's the most recent. If I go to favorites, then I can go all the way to the bottom is where the last one was added right here. Well, I don't want it at the bottom. I want it at the top. Again, I've showed you this on a previous ForeFlight workshop, but to review it, we're going to click on this edit button. And then you can see the 3-bar grab bar here. So just tap it there, hold it, and drag it. I hit the top of my cursor pad all the way up to the top of all your favorites. Drop it there, and then click on Done, and you'll see it's right there at the top of the favorites. Let's say I have a flight plan. I know I did one to... I'm looking down here to find one to, let's see. Oh, let's just say, oh, there's one, DTO. So I have this long list of favorites. If I just type an airport that I know I've been to, that I know I plan to flight, you can type it right here, and it starts filtering out the flights. That also works in the recents. If I clear the filter, I can type, well, I know that, didn't I ever go to Santa Monica? No, I didn't plan one there. Did I do one to Mammoth, MMH? Yeah, well, there they are. There's all the recents to Mammoth. So you can filter out that list when it gets long. And of course, you can clear the list if you want to start from scratch, or you can go ahead and if you wanted to delete, you can just swipe and tap on delete and clear out individual ones. So I'll close that. If you're going to fly back and you're going to do the same route, you can hit this button here. That'll swap the direction. So from Mammoth back to Palmdale, fly the same route, just swap directions right here. But we haven't gone there yet, so I'm going to put it back to Palmdale to Mammoth. So now that I've got all that done, it looks like I've made some changes. Looks like I got to repack again. We missed something here. Since I redid it, I'm going to go ahead and pack it again. Make sure I got everything on board. It's downloading to the iPad so that if I have no internet or no ADSB in or FISB in, I'll have no weather. I have everything saved on the iPad. So I'll close out of that. The next thing that I'd want to do, I've looked at this, I'm happy with it. I want to go ahead and file this flight plan. So the next thing I'm going to do is send this to, and that's the send to button. I want to send it to the flights page, which is this tab right here. But I want this flight plan to automatically populate as the next flight on this page. So I'll go back to maps. I'm going to tap on this send to button. Now I could send it, I could share the flight plan file and send it to a friend or a co-pilot or a flight instructor or a student, or I can send it as an email. But I want to send it to the flights tab. And you can just see if you do send it as an email, it'll just automatically populate a new email and send it to somebody from there. You enter who you're sending it to. So I want to send it to the flights tab. So send to, then tap on flights. And here it is in the flights tab. From here, I can tap on a nav log, get my nav log, print it when I'm happy with it, and then write on it, or I can save it into the documents and then use the annotations and write on it. There's a number of ways to do it. I want to get my briefing, so I'm going to tap on briefing. And I like to get the briefing before I file because there may be something that changes my mind, but you certainly can file a flight plan before you get it, the briefing, and then amend it. Well, here's the synopsis, and you just step through the briefing by tapping on all of the next buttons down at the bottom. It shows your route, and it shows the METARs. They're all green. Green is good. Next is PIREPs. Got pilots reports. Those are very important. A lot of people like to keep the pilot reports on the map. So if we go to the maps layer, we can go to the layer tab and select PIREPs. I think those are important. This is what our fellow pilots are experiencing out there. Very important, however, when you look at a PIREP, to like the orange ones are turbulence, the blue ones are icing. If we look at turbulence in our area, there's really not a lot of PIREPs here. But let's say this was in our area. I could tap on it, and it shows that this PIREP was given 28 minutes ago. The timing of the PIREP is important. If it said 28 hours ago, I don't think it would be here. But if it did, I would disregard it. The location, the FMG VOR 185-degree radial at 50 miles. At that time, at that altitude, by an E-175 regional jet. And they reported moderate turbulence to Oakland Center. And close that. Yeah. Did I hear someone?
That was me leaning forward in my chair with the mic open.
Oh,
Sorry.
are you comfortable?
Very.
Excellent.
Can I make a comment about PIREPs though?
Absolutely.
For the less experienced pilots, be careful. If there are no PIREPs in an area, that can often mean one of two things.
Nobody's brave enough to go there.
Yeah, either it's nobody wants to go there because it looks really grim, or it's severe clear. So and looking at mountainous terrain, just be careful with that.
That's a good point. Absolutely great advice. Yeah. So I'll go back to plates and not plates. I'm sorry, flights. And we were looking at our pre-flight briefing, and you can see it's stepping through METARs, PIREPs, forecasts, and then NOTAMs. And we can just step our way through that. If yours looks different, you may have a briefing format that's changed. We've covered this before, but I'll say it again. And you're going to go to the settings to change this and just type briefing up here, up in the search filter. And you'll see briefing format will eventually show up. What I have here is the graphical HTML format. You may have PDF shown as well. I had a gentleman on last month that when we talked about the briefing, he said, I did a flight and the briefing looked nowhere near like what you did. Turns out he was flying to somewhere in Canada. And I know that we are catering to a lot of the information we're giving here is I'm taking for granted that everybody's in the United States, but I know you're not. People from all over the world are watching this seminar, and I appreciate that. So your briefings are going to look different when you're flying in and out of another country. So I understand that. But it's the information that you need will be there. So let's say that we've got our whole briefing. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. We're happy with it. Something else you can do when you file is, well, I want to arrive at a certain time. We said we're going to depart at noon Pacific time, but what if I just want to arrive at a certain time? So I want it to tell me what time I want to file what time I'm going to arrive. So I can tap on ETA, and then I can change this. Well, I want to arrive at 3 o'clock p.m., or maybe this is the latest I want to arrive, so we can calculate the latest I need to leave. So 3 p.m. tomorrow, close it out, and that's our arrival time. It'll adjust all the forecasts, and you can see now for an ETA of 2:59, we need to leave 2 hours and 38 minutes earlier. If someone on here knows where it would show you the time, let me know, because I haven't seen that. Looks like there's some weather moving in tomorrow into that area. Something I might watch out for. In any event, we go through this departure, destination. the aircraft, the performance profile, the route. I'm going via these two airports, Bakersfield and Fresno. My cruise altitude, people on board, I'm just by myself. Fuel, and this is where it gave us that warning that I don't have enough fuel, but we can put that in here. We enter all our fuel numbers and our weights. And once we get this filled out how we like it, then we can proceed to file the flight plan down here at the bottom. So we'll proceed to file, and it gives us everything, asks all the questions that they need to file the flight plan. So it's an ICAO, that's the form type. It's going to be VFR flight, general aviation, and just go down through here and make sure everything is accurate. And once you have confirmed all that, you might put an alternate in here that I'm going to go to Bishop if I can't get into Mammoth. So I'll just put
Brian, we lost your iPad.
You know, that happens. It's right here. I found it.
I got two of them here. Which one do you want?
I hate when I lose my iPad. Well, it's going to be back shortly here. Give me 1 second. And there we go.
There it is.
It's in the recovery. Okay. All right. So we proceed to file. Everything's in here that we need. Everything's correct. Oh, pilot name. Well, that's not right. I'm going to change that. Spacebar doesn't work on this keyboard. It's all right. We'll be fine. Change the email. Make sure it's you, because you're going to get email updates. If it's IFR, you especially want that. You know. Anyways, I misspelled it, but you put your email in there, address, phone. That's not even anywhere near right. So you put your number in there, and I wouldn't put my license number. I don't think that's necessary. But I've had flight service actually call me with that phone number when they couldn't find me, didn't know where I was, and they'll call that number, and you can save a search and rescue when you forget to close your flight plan. That can be handy. Anyway, tap on the file button, and it's going to send it. Oh, I guess it doesn't like that email address. So let's fix that. There we go, and we'll go next. And are you ready to file this flight plan for this airplane departing 18 hours from now? Read that because it's a good gross error check. It might say, 78 hours from now, and you can know that you've done something wrong. I'm going to tap on file, let it go ahead and file the flight plan. You'll notice that you'll get some pop-up messages, some emails and everything, but also your buttons. Now you have 2 new buttons here, 3 actually. You can cancel it, you can amend it, or you can activate it. If you have an iPad with cellular service, you can tap on this activate button right before takeoff, and it'll start it. Open your flight plan, and it'll start that time and route that you filed will be the key time for initiating a search and rescue. Again, only file a flight plan if you want someone looking for you in the event that you don't show up. If you don't want anybody looking for you, if you don't show up, then don't file one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. But you notice there, before I do that, there's a send to button up here. And I can send this to myself, and I can mail it. And you'll see that it fills out an ICAO flight plan form. And I can send this to myself and then save it in my ForeFlight documents if I want. But this is what the ICAO flight plan form actually looks like. And you can send it to yourself or somebody else as a backup. If you're flying at a flight school, they may want to have a copy of your flight plan that you filed, and you would send this to them as well. You can also do the same with your weight and balance. You can send that to somebody the same way through your the send to button right here. All right, I'm going to cancel this flight plan. I don't plan on flying it tomorrow. I have to go do the job that helps pay the bills. So cancel your flight plan. Yes, I will cancel that. All right, flight plan changed. Plan tab is out of sync with filing. Yep, because I canceled it. So let's close that. And that's a flight plan from filing to looking at the route, sending it to flights, and then looking at a briefing and filing the flight plan. Any questions on that? If not, we'll take a break, and we can come back and talk about
we did have a question about the flight plan time. When you looked at the ETD time that you program in that flights page, we played with this earlier as Steve is asking the question, and you can't enter an ETA time on the flight plan, on the maps page in the flight plan drawer.
No.
But you can do it right there on the page you're on. You can set the ETA there and then send that back to Maps. And now Maps knows what time you need to depart in order to arrive at the time you told it you wanted to
Excellent.
arrive.
Good point. So we put the ETA of 3 p.m. that we want to arrive, and then use that send to button, is what Mike said. Send it to the map. And now look at our flight plan drawer, and bingo, there it is. Thanks for that. Depart at 12:21 p.m. That's going to be our departure time to arrive at 3 p.m. That would be the latest, obviously, we want to leave to arrive by 3 p.m. Very good.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. I did get a great suggestion from someone. As it turns out, I didn't realize I had the shading on here is set to shaded on the terrain, and you can change that shading to colored terrain and get a much better picture of where the steep terrain is. And of course, you can see a much better portrayal of the Bishop, the Owens Valley here, and where the steepest terrain is, which if you wanted to just rubber band your route along this lighter terrain here, you could obviously do that by a much easier with this terrain shading than you can again on the quick settings under ForeFlight ForeFlight map. I had the terrain shaded in shaded terrain like that, and I was brought to my attention to change it to colored terrain like that, and you can see it's a significant difference in what that looks like. So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and go to the documents portion. I'm not going to get into, I know some people wanted to talk about importing a logbook and importing weight and balance and things like that. That's not what I was going to do at this point. I'd like to just talk about this tab right here, documents, and the things that you can keep on the iPad to carry with you. The first thing you want to do is tap on this. If you don't see it on the left already, click on this catalog button up here. If you see the word close, then you've already got the catalog open. This part on the left side of the screen that has the drives, which are at the bottom. Kind of think of these as hard drives. We've got the ForeFlight drives, and there's 4 of them here. In my particular subscription, I have an FAA hard drive. I'm going to say hard drive because it makes it easier to picture. The ForeFlight drive, the Jeppesen drive, and the Nav Canada drive. In this case, I'll tap on FAA drive, and you can see there are FAA subfolders of FAA things in here, and these are all things that relate to the FAA. For example, FAA domestic flight plan form, that may look familiar to some old timers, the old form that we had. I can close that, and you see the ICAO flight planning quick guide. Lots of great stuff in here that you can go through that are already in there on these drives that are pre-made for you. Then you have your drives. Like here I have my drives. I have imported documents, and then I have my Dropbox because I've linked ForeFlight to my cloud storage, which in this case is Dropbox, is what I use. You can use Dropbox, you can use Box, or you can use Amazon Web Services has one. I think it's called S3, or I forget what it was called, but in any event, it's the Amazon one. A little bit more complicated to link that up. I don't want to go through the linking process, although I know that many of you are really going to want that, of how to link the Dropbox to your ForeFlight. I'll probably create a video and post it on the YouTube channel just on doing that. It's a little bit more complicated, especially since I already have one linked. But in the event, you don't have to actually have it linked to a Dropbox. But what that will do is any file I put in the Dropbox folder, a specific ForeFlight folder that's created in my Dropbox, will automatically show up on my iPad in this folder here, Brian's Dropbox. All these things I've put in the folder on my computer, and they just automatically show up here, which is really kind of cool. Any document I put in there just shows up, and I use these while I'm teaching. Then above that, we have binders. Binders are just temporary groups of shortcuts. Think of everything in here in a binder as a shortcut to some document that's in the drive. It's stored on the drive. It's shortcutted in the binders. For example, I've created a ForeFlight binder, and in there I've put the ForeFlight mobile guides and the documents that I want to access to readily available in this binder. There are FAA books. I called it FAA books when I created the binder, and in there I put all of the FAA books that I like to use, that I may access, that I might want access to, including FAR Part 91. It's my favorite reading material. When I can't sleep, Part 61. I read when I can't sleep. And of course, Part 121. The ones that I like, they're all in here. And I can edit this. These are all free. All of these books that I remember paying a lot of money for at the pilot shop and carrying around with me, these are all free. And it doesn't make your iPad any heavier to add them, no matter how many books you put in your iPad. So the airplane that I fly, my airplane, I have a folder for that. For the flying club, for different kinds of airplanes, I have folders for those. So one thing that I'm going to do is show you how to put these on here. So first thing you do is, let's say I don't have any binders here at all. I can just tap on Add New Binder. You should see that at the bottom. I'll give it a binder name and I'll call it ForeFlight Workshop. And I'll save it. And you'll see it put it in alphabetical order, ForeFlight Workshop right here, and it's empty. There's nothing in it. Now I can go down to ForeFlight, and let's just say I want 2 or 3 of these I want to put in there. So let me just tap on the ForeFlight Logbook Guide, and I'm going to tap on this folder right here. I want to add it to one of my other binders, and I want to put that in. It's showing me where it already exists, but I want to add it to ForeFlight Workshops. So I check that. Now there's one document in there, this one. So I'll close it. That's one way to do it. Another way is to just tap your finger and drag it. Let's say, whoops, I just want to take this ForeFlight Legends Guide. I'm tapping and holding it. While I'm holding it, I'm just going to drag it over. Well, I can't see my new folder, so let me get it. The ForeFlight Workshop visible right here, and the ForeFlight Legends Guide right here. I can just drag it and drop it right into it, and it says you get a green check mark that shows it was successful, and now you can see I have 2 items. This binder makes it easy to just find those 2 documents. It's kind of filtering out all of the stuff in the drives to a simple to read format where I just see the ones that I want for teaching ForeFlight workshops or for flying Cessna 172. I have the Cessna 172. This one's an SP, a P. I got all my operating manuals. This one came from a flying club. Here's the 172 SP manual. And once I'm in it, I can see it's 500 pages long, and I can swipe through and read it. I can zoom in on things. I can highlight things. I can do all kinds of things, and I can make bookmarks in here as well. So let's say I want to have a very easy to access the emergency procedures section and the limitations, for example. Well, I can try to find the page like this, and I'm dragging my finger across the bottom here to get to different pages. But if you go to this bookmarks tab right here and tap on it, well, I can add a bookmark to right here. It knows that this is section 6, weight and balance. I can add that bookmark, but that's not where I wanted it. If I go to looking for the search button right here and tap on that, well, I can search the whole document for something specific, for a keyword, or I can look at the table of contents. This is what I want. It already has the sections labeled out like this. These are my bookmarks. I don't have any bookmarks yet. But let's say I want to create one just for the emergency procedures. This right here. If I tap on that, it takes me to the first page of emergency procedures. Now I'm going to go to this bookmark button to create a bookmark. Tap on it, and it says Section 3 Emergency. And that's good. That's a good name. I'll take that default. I could just call it Emerge if I want and add bookmark. Now, if I go to the search button and go to the bookmarks tab, there's my bookmark that I created right there. So if there's anywhere that you frequently go in the book or you want to have it handy, the contents is great, the search feature is great, but again, you can create your own bookmarks. When you see a caret like this, it means you can expand that section out a little bit and go directly to the malfunction for which you're going to the emergency procedures. Let's say you're having electrical malfunctions, and you can just tap it and it goes right there. Uh, you can also annotate these documents by tapping that button up top there. Let me do it again. This pencil right here is the annotate button. If you tap on that, and you can see I did something there, and you drag across, you can highlight things. You can draw on it, and you can see when I highlight, I can't draw that straight. So let me clear that and show you how I actually annotate and highlight. If I wanted to highlight a couple lines here, I would select this box here. I'm up here in the top left corner. Select the four-cornered box, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do is make the iPad full screen, make it easier to see. And let's say I just want to highlight this note here, so I can make a box right here around that note. And once I've done it, if it's not where I want it, I can tap on it, and I thought I could move it. Hang on, undo. Undo is my favorite button. So if you accidentally do something you don't want to do, come back up here to undo. Clear will get rid of all of the annotations on this page. So if there's a way to select it. If I'm not able to click on it because I'm still in annotate, but you can select on this dashed square, which is the selection tool. And I can select this big area here. Now everything in there is selected, and I can either cut, copy, trash, or type a note there, or I can drag it at this point to wherever I want. Let's say I just want to center it because I like things centered. I can do that with it selected like that, and then click out of it. Another way to highlight, you can also use that to just highlight one or two lines, but it kind of makes a straight line. It makes a box. You want to make a circle. I like red circles sometimes, so tap on the circle tool. I don't want it to be yellow, so I'm going to tap on this drop down arrow. I want it to be red, and I want it no fill. I can make a circle with a solid fill on it and choose a color what I want in the middle, but I don't want a color in the middle. I just want to draw a circle. So when you see this checkered pattern here outside of it, that's telling you that it's going to be see-through or transparent. So the color is going to be red, and I want it, if I wanted it to be a little opaque, like if you're highlighting something, you'd make it opaque so you can see through it. I'm going to circle something, so I'll leave the opacity at 100, and I want it to be a little thicker than 10 points. So I'm going to grab this up to maybe 18 points. And I like that size of the shape that I'm going to make, so I'll click out of that. Now I can go and circle something like the word off. Well, that's a pretty thick line, but undo that. If I don't like what I did there, I can again, I can select it. I can do that, and then change the we'll just trash it. That's one way to do it. And we'll go back up here to the tool, and we'll change that 17 point down to something a little bit more reasonable. Maybe 11 is good. Click out of it, and maybe I can circle the word off. It's still a pretty thick line, but you get the idea. You can make as many of these as you want. If you want a perfect circle, drag it until it's close to perfect, and then you'll see a diagonal line going through it. I don't know if that shows up here, but you can see it when you see that diagonal dotted line going through it. It's a perfect circle. Let me try one here. It's smaller. See that diagonal line? If I make it oblique, it's like no dotted line. If I make it a perfect circle, it snaps to that when you see that dotted line. I'm going to go ahead and clear that annotation. I'm going to go close this document. When I'm done annotating, I click on done. That turns the annotation off. Then I can close this document, go back to my documents tab. When I'm looking at these, I can put, like I said, as many as I want into these folders. I can delete the folder. These documents will remain on the drive that they came from. Most of those will be in my Dropbox or my, in my Dropbox drive or my imported drive. Imported is like if you email yourself a document. Now I showed you that also that we could import some layers into ForeFlight. And in the email that went out, I said, try and download this and have it readily available, which the airport restaurants. I'd like you to go to Social Flight website to do that and see all the things to do and events you can attend, and it's much more thorough. So I advise you to go to Social Flight because I love their app. But if you want to just have that, people make up all kinds of great content layers that you can put in ForeFlight. And in this one that I sent out in the email was a link to download the restaurants, airport restaurants. You want to know, hey, what airports have restaurants? Somebody went to the trouble of making that, and I wish I had the name to give him credit, and I'll probably do it when I find it. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get out of ForeFlight and go to my email and see where I emailed it to myself, this airport restaurants file right here. It's in the email, and I'll go ahead and download it. I can save it to documents, so I'll go ahead and do that. It'll save it in my documents folder. What I really want to do is open it. I want to send it to files. That's the actual code for it. It says share right here, but remember this button here. We're talking ForeFlight language, so that's a send to. So I'm going to share it with ForeFlight or send it to ForeFlight by tapping on that and then scrolling over here to see ForeFlight. You may not see ForeFlight right here. If you don't see ForeFlight, go all the way to the side and tap on more. And then you'll see it here probably, but you want to add it to that list so you don't have to click on more next time. So tap on edit and then go down to the bottom and click the plus next to ForeFlight, and it will put it up on the top favorites list like I have here. Then tap on done, and then you can tap on ForeFlight and it's going to send that layer to ForeFlight. ForeFlight opened up and it showed you save airport restaurants KML2, and it knows it wants you to save it to custom content, which we talked about doing custom layers before with a couple workshops ago with putting shapes and circles. This one's going to go to, it's not a waypoint, it's a custom map layer. So that's where I want to save it. Import is successful. Saved user map layer from airport restaurants. Tap OK. Go to the maps and let's zoom out of here. And just to clean this up a bit, I'm going to turn off the filter of the airports. We'll leave the terrain on. What do I have? I have PIREPs still lit up. I'm going to turn those off. PIREPs. But while I'm here, the custom content layers are down here at the bottom. And you'll see one called airport restaurants. It's right here. If I tap on that, look at that. They all just showed up. I can zoom in, tap out of the menu there, and I'm going to zoom into my location and see, well, what have we got? These are the airports near me, so I can see what restaurants are near me, and that's pretty cool. I can fly to any of these airports, and let's turn the airports on. And you can now see the airport and the restaurant that's at that airport. So we can fly, I think down here is the original Heart 8 is down here at Stevensville. I don't know if it'll be on here. And anyway, in any event, it's kind of cool. And you can turn that on and off in the Maps Layer tab. Down at the bottom under Custom Content, hit Airport Restaurants and deselect it. If you did that and you think it's nonsense, I don't like it, I don't want it on my screen, you can edit your custom content and get rid of it just by tapping More, going to Custom Content. And here are the custom charts that I have. I can go to Custom Map Layers, which is what we just did. I have some circles, I have the NOTAM, but here's the airport restaurants. You can just edit and click the minus sign next to it and it will get rid of the airport restaurants. Slide it over and hit delete. When you're finished editing, you can hit done, and then that is how you can get rid of that layer. But emailing a layer to yourself like that is one way to do it. Another way that I'd like to show you, and this is the last one I'm going to show you to get a lot of documents into the Documents tab, and there's so much you can do, is, I missed it by that much. There's the Documents tab. Let's say that I just have a bunch of pictures I took of my my flight handbook, and I've got all my checklists. I just took photographs of the checklists, and I have them in my photos. So one thing you can do is you can either send them to ForeFlight from your photos, or you can open a split screen, which is a really cool new feature of the new iOS. Up here on the top, you'll see these three dots. If you have the latest iOS, you can tap on that and open a split view. And that's going to open two programs, one on the left, one on the right, two apps. So you tap on split view, it's going to move ForeFlight out of the way while you open up the other app that you want on the other side of the screen. Well, I don't know where it is on my iPad, so I'm just going to tap the middle, and it wants me to choose another app, it's telling me. and slide down a little bit and start typing photos. And there it is. So I'll tap on photos, and now photos are on the other side of the screen. And let's say I want to take some of these photos and put them over into a new folder. You can see I'm in the Cessna folder. I want to get out of that. I'm going to back out to catalog. And while you're here, just take the one you want to drop. Let's say these, for example, were these 3 pictures here are 3 pictures of a checklist. Just grab one and drop it on the top of the add new binder. And boom, new binder is created. You can take the name new binder or give it a name and then tap on save. Well, here's the new binder with one item in it, and it's a graphic file. Now I can just take whichever ones I want and just grab them over there, drag them over to, and any that one's already there. Oh, it's a video. That's why it won't accept that. The formats of files that you can put into documents, I've actually saved. I took a screenshot of that. Let me put that screenshot on the screen, and this is from the manual. See if I present monitor 2, and then let's see, the supported file types for the files is, that's right here, and you can see movies isn't one of them. The maximum file size for a documents is 115 megabytes, by the way, so you can max out. But these are all the file types that you can put into ForeFlight. You can put an Excel spreadsheet in there. You can look at it, but you can't edit it within ForeFlight. Again, PowerPoint, it'll view it in a viewer, but you can't edit it or play animations and all that kind of stuff. And obviously videos, I tried to move a video over and that didn't work. I have, for adding a cloud drive, you can actually go to chapter 13 documents, and in the manual, and you can see how to add a cloud drive into ForeFlight. And I'll probably make a video on that later as well. So back to the iPad, if I just wanted to drop some more pictures in there, I could just grab them and drag them over. As long as the document, the format of the app that you're using supports drag and drop. You'll notice I held this too long and I got a menu. I'm still holding my finger down, and all I got to do to get rid of that menu is keep sliding my finger away. And I can actually add by tapping on several things at a time, and it will add them all to this stack. I've got 5 things on there, and then I'm just going to continue dragging it all the way over to that binder, and there they are. So that's just photos. You can actually close this by going up to the 3 dots. I'm going to close this app. And then I'm going to open up my OneDrive, because I can't link OneDrive to ForeFlight, but I can drag a lot of documents from there to ForeFlight. So I'm going to go to the 3 dots, go to a split view, and I'm going to open OneDrive as my other folder. And I'm going to go to aviation. I'm going to go to, let's say I've got all the documents and manuals for my airplane in, looking for it in this one folder here, Citabria, and I want the manuals, or in the manuals folder here. So I just want all these manuals over into a new binder. So I just take one of them and I can grab it, hold it, hover it over, add new binder, let it go, and it'll say new binder 1 because the other one was already new binder. I'll save it. But then I can go ahead, and sometimes I'm not coordinated enough to hold one and then tap on others, or it opens it. It doesn't, whoops. It just doesn't work that well. So I'm going to back out of the document. I didn't mean to open it, but I can go to the select tool and just select them all. I want all these manuals in ForeFlight in my new manual. Sorry, got to be careful. If you click it wrong, it opens it, which I did. So without doing too many, well, now I can't do it. We'll just drag a few of them over here to new binder 1, and you'll see how this works. And you can continue to drag the ones that you want over there. Now I can go to new binder 1, and you can see these are the ones that I dragged over. I have my pilot operating handbook right there inside of ForeFlight. I'll close this OneDrive window. Looking at ForeFlight, here's my manual for my airplane. Right there, the POH, inside documents. I can annotate it. I get a lot of questions like, if I annotate it and then there's an update, will it get rid of my annotations? The answer is, if you keep the file name the same, the annotations will remain. Now, they might be in the wrong place if something shifts on the page, so that's something you'll need to watch out for. So I'll go ahead and close that. I see that we're pretty much hit our 90 minutes. We're kind of running out of time. This is something we could obviously spend more time on, but it's, I've hit a lot of time. We'll probably do another one, and we'll touch this as we go in future workshops. We'll add some stuff, and like I said, I will make a video on how to connect one of your drives to ForeFlight. Like, I've got my Dropbox there. You can go to the manual and look. It's not too complicated. The Amazon web service one is a little bit more difficult, but it walks you through it.
Hey Brian, can I just bring up one thing on documents?
Yeah.
One of the things I like to do when I'm going on a cross country, and I can't demo it tonight because of technology problems in my house.
Okay.
Which is why everybody sees me here twice. What I do is I go into the flights, my planned flight,
Okay.
and I take the nav log and I ship that off to there you go. Ship that off to documents. And what's really nice about that is, using my Apple Pencil, I can do my how goes it work. I passed this waypoint at this time, and so on and so forth. So I can keep track just as if I had a paper log on my kneeboard.
I like it. So I just sent it to the ForeFlight documents, and I assume it goes into go back to documents, imported
in my docs,
into my documents. And
yep.
Do you know what
it means? It's sorted alphabetically. You're gonna have to. That's the only thing I don't like about it.
They're sorted alphabetically. So what ForeFlight did to battle it, by the way, because you just reminded me of that. If you go to the ForeFlight binder, they renamed these A1, 2, 3, C because they're sorted alphabetically. They've given a nomenclature to the file name that puts them in the order that they want. My documents, and go to the N. I could search for navlog. Let's try that.
Try that.
There it is, navlog Palmdale to Mammoth. There it is. So you can also annotate on here if you hit the annotation button, and you can put a square, and you can write in it and make it opaque, but that's just another way to do it. You can annotate it, you can make circles, you can do whatever you want. There's all kinds of things to do there. But you can also put notes. This one here happens to be a sticky note, so I can put sticky notes here that there may be some notes I want to, cross country with Joe Schmo, and save that as a note. You'll see that it's right here. This is the note, sticky note. If I tap on it, there's my note, cross country with Joe Schmo. Anyway, I'll trash that because I don't need it. But anyway, yeah, so that's a good way to do your logbook. You had mentioned the pivot, and we're about to do the giveaways, and we'll be done and we can take questions. But the pivot pivot mount, I really do like it. They did a giveaway on our first workshop, and I'm about to get more of them. If enough people utilize our discount and they see that we're making an impact, then they will actually probably give us some more to give away. But I really like it. I use it. Let me go to my full screen camera, and I'm going to show you the pivot mount real quick. You're going to be frightened by me. But so this is the mount itself. You put the iPad in here, and on the back there's a little sliding thing. This is the suction mount, which works really well. And you just slide the iPad on, and you can rotate it. To take it off, you just grab this, pinch that little lever right here. You can see it's a latch almost, and you unlatch it and pull it up. Very solid. A lot of the airlines and military, you saw in the video before the workshop started, there were some videos of who's using this. It just snaps on. You can take it off of that, leave this on your window, and then this is the thigh mount, the leg mount that I use. I just strap this onto my leg, and then there's a pivot mount right on there. And I can, again, let's try and do it so you can see, not me. Slide it on. It's snapped on there. It's pretty tight. You can rotate it. We go this way. You can see I'm rotating it. And then you just grab this pivot mount, the blue, the color there, pinch it, pull it off, and then you can put it back onto the one that's on your window. It's a great setup. It's my favorite, and I've got about a dozen different iPad mounts in my closet that I've been using, and this is the one that I've landed on and used the most. We do have a coupon code. It's somewhere on the website, and you'll see it here later, but it gives you 10% off of any purchase. If you are watching the recording of this, stand by for a QR code for Wings Credit. I will close the recording after we do some questions if we have any.
There was one person that asked that you could show how to put the VFR traffic pattern in a flight plan, just so they could see that again, how to get there.
Absolutely. Let's show the iPad. Let's make a quick flight plan. Let's just say we're going to go from, it doesn't matter. We'll go from LAX to, oops, you can put a flight plan in the search, by the way. If I go LAX space, my space bar doesn't seem to work here. You can do that, put 2 airports there, and then you'll see the route. But I'll put LAX. We'll just do the route that we have here, since it's still there. Let me close that. So right here is Mammoth. We're going into Mammoth. Let's do Palmdale pattern. Let's just switch this route around. So let's go to flight plan. And I'm going to swap directions on the route by hitting this button here. So now our departure point is Mammoth, destination Palmdale. So to put a traffic pattern in, let's get ourselves down to Palmdale, take a look at what we're doing. And if I put the sectional up here, you'll notice that it also corresponds with what we see for Palmdale is right pattern runway 4. And it will know, ForeFlight knows that that's standard is for runway 4 and runway 25 is a right pattern here. So to get the pattern in, tap on procedure, and there's departure procedures, approach procedures, holding patterns, but traffic pattern is what we're talking about into Palmdale. So tap on traffic pattern into Palmdale. It brings up a blow up of the airport with extended center lines. It shows you, if you're connected to the internet and if you're not departing too late from now, what the forecast winds are or the current winds. The best wind runway is runway 22. That would be the one they're using right now. So I'll tap on runway 22. To enter the pattern, we're going to do that. It shows the pattern altitude is 3,500 feet. That's MSL, obviously. You could switch that to AGL and see it's a 1,000-foot pattern. Back to MSL. We can do a straight in and really get a good discussion going with a lot of people. Or we're going to do the default left traffic, 45-degree entry. We can cross midfield and do a teardrop entry to the best side, or across midfield, do a direct entry. Let's just go ahead and tap on left traffic as default. Here's right traffic, 45. Interestingly, it's showing left and right traffic. So this is for runway, let me back out of here, 22. Let me go back to the sectional because I want to see runway 22. Was it a right pattern? No. 25 is the right pattern. So we need to do left traffic for 22. I thought it would know. So procedure, traffic pattern, runway 22 is best for wind, and we need to do left traffic right here, the default. Well, I guess that's how it knows. Its default is left traffic, 45-degree entry, and you can see that it's painted it there. That may not be how you get to the 45, but it's not too bad. So I'm going to add to route is the important part. To get it onto your route, tap on add to route at the bottom once you're happy with it. Now you can see it's part of our route down here. And I can make it easier to see by turning the sectional off. That's it. So we go to the holding, we overfly the airport at 1,000 feet above pattern altitude. It shows you the pattern altitude right here. It's another good reminder. And then you're going to fly this pattern. I want to really highly encourage everybody that when you are flying with the iPad like this, you're not going to navigate with it. It's a great guide. It's a great overview. Gives you great situational awareness. You're not to navigate with ForeFlight. It's not for navigation. It's not to be the only way that you know where you are. IFR especially, it's illegal to use it for navigation IFR. But it gives you great visual reference and situational awareness for how to fly. But this is a visual maneuver flying in the pattern. Certainly don't use this in lieu of looking out your window. But that's how you load the pattern into your flight plan. And you can see in the flight plan edit box, It's right here's the pattern. And if I want to get rid of it, I can just drag it out and delete it. Yeah.
Brian, I wonder if if you wouldn't mind just touching again on how to import that restaurants layer, that custom layer.
Sure. So once you've got it, email it to yourself or have it on your computer somewhere, and email it to yourself. And that's the easiest way to import it into ForeFlight, is to open it in ForeFlight or find it on your iPad and you want to send it to ForeFlight. That's the goal. So I've got it, like I said, I emailed it to myself. It's also in my documents, but either way, you get to the file and you want to, first of all, read all that. That's the code. Don't worry about that. Just hit the send to button right here. And you want to send it to ForeFlight. That's the goal. If you see ForeFlight here, great, tap on it. If you don't see ForeFlight here, you can go all the way to the right and hit more, and you'll see it on the list. And you can make sure it's here all the time by adding it to your favorites. That's what I was showing earlier. I'll go ahead and do it while we're here. So tap on more, then edit this list. Down here, you'll see ForeFlight. Make sure it's up here on your favorites list with a red minus next to it, like this. And then you know it'll be a default. Send to favorite. I'll click done, done. So we're going to send this to ForeFlight and tap on ForeFlight. When it gets here, ForeFlight recognizes save airport restaurants.kml, and it needs to be a .kml file. That's like a Google Earth layer. K is for customized map layer. That's not what KML stands for, but you can think of it that way. Custom map layer for someone who can't spell. Tap on custom content because it is a custom content, and you have a choice. Is this a waypoints or is it a map layer? This is a map layer. So we're going to select map layers, and it's there. Click OK. Now it will be in your map layers tab all the way at the bottom, right side with your layers. And here it is, airport restaurants. I tap on it. Turns out I don't see one for Palmdale, but if we pan out, we can see all the labels there, and you can toggle them on and off. We can go down here to Camarillo to see my favorite restaurant, the Waypoint Cafe right here. If you tap on it, there's more information, I believe. Waypoint Cafe, it's at Camarillo. There's the variation coordinates. From my position, there's the bearing to it. I can just go direct to that Waypoint Cafe right now from my present position if I want as well.
Several questions on where do you get this restaurant layer? I've been answering them, telling them the answer, but why don't you give it to them straight, Brian?
Okay, so I've emailed it. It will be a link in the follow-up email as well, but the link you got, 1 week to ForeFlight, 1 day until ForeFlight, and 1 hour until ForeFlight. You get bombarded with those emails that you don't read. And I know that because of these questions. That's where there's a link to download it. So it's on our website. I put the link here. Next week, it won't be up here anymore. It's going to be under this links and tools. It'll be right in here. There'll be a link to it. But for now, you tap on that link, download airport restaurants file for ForeFlight here. And all it's going to do is take you to a page. That's the file. And most people give up here and say, oh, I can't open it. Well, no, you can't. It's a KML file. It's just a download in a folder. You want to tap on this download folder button. Tap on the download button, and it shows up in your downloads folder up here. And I happen to use Chrome. And you can, if that's not there, you can tap on this download button. Airport Restaurants KML. Open that folder right there. It'll show you that document in the folder if you tap on that right there. If I just click on the file, it's going to open it in Google Earth, which it's doing right here. It's actually a Google Earth layer, and that's it. Those are the airport restaurants in the United States. But what we want to do now that we have that file and downloaded it onto our computer, is email it to ourselves and then send it to ForeFlight while you're on your iPad.
Another neat use for, I'll give all the instructors a neat use for it is, I get really frustrated, trying to find airports that are outside the magical 50-mile circle from my home airport for the private students.
Yeah.
So what I did is I created a straight circle in in a tool and created a KML file.
I've done the same thing, and I have that like my home airport here. To get right where I am, I'm going to tap on this locate button here. I'm going to turn this layer off for the restaurants to clean it up a little bit. But I created this 50-mile circle layer, which is T67 50 nautical mile circle. If I tap on that, it puts a circle around my home airport. Any airport outside that is called a cross country. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah, so you can create that map layer. And that's on the website also on ForeFlight Workshops. If you go down to links and tools, it's actually shifttools.com. Type in your airport here. Let's say you want, I put KDFW. It's just a filter. So as you start typing, it's going to start, I can just type DFW, and then I can click on KDFW right here, Dallas Fort Worth. This is, he's saving you a lot of work. So the coordinates are here and they're in the right format. All you got to do now is download the KML file. Oh, you got to give it a radius. So you want 50 nautical mile circle. You want the circle to be red, white, blue, green, yellow. Let's make it green, and then download KML. Oh, need a file name. So ignore those. Ignore those. We'll just type in ABC and download KML. And here it is, abc.kml, and it's in my downloads folder right here. It should be in here, abc.kml. Oh, it opened the wrong folder. It's this one, abc.kml. If I open that in Google Earth, again, this is the circle generator we just made. It's a green circle around DFW. And it's slanted, so I got a straight overhead. But that's it. And then you can send that to ForeFlight. Just send that file. Just take this file right here, ABCKML, and send it to yourself. Or if you have a Dropbox linked to ForeFlight, like I do, what you'll have is in your Dropbox folder, you will have a folder called apps. In that apps, you'll see ForeFlight will create this ForeFlight folder. All I have to do now is take this and drag it into that ForeFlight folder. Drop it there. It's copying it. Now it's in my ForeFlight folder. Guess what? It's on my iPad now. It will sync up. So let's go to my iPad, and I'll show you where it is. Go to my iPad. It is in, whoops. We'll go to Documents. We'll close out of this navigation log. We'll go to Brian's Dropbox, and we should see ABC. If I update it here,
It takes it a few minutes sometimes to show up there.
Yeah, maybe it's got to go all the way to the interweb and back. It's got to go through the whole internet. Anyway, you'll see it here, and then you can open it or send it to the maps and so on. It's just not working here. Let me refresh it. No.
So we had a lot of kind of questions related to this about what are the sources of these various custom content layers, and who was the source of this particular one, and where can you get more kinds of layers? You have any thoughts on those?
Yeah, you would have to Google custom map layers, like custom Google Earth map layers. Another great one that a friend showed me earlier was this NOAA RNC maps. So the one off the coast of California, I can activate that. And here it is. This is a very detailed, there's all kinds of stuff you can add. Any of these layers you can add to ForeFlight. The more you zoom in, the more detail you get. You can see shipping channels. You can see the obstacles, to landing in the water. You'll see, I can't find any here yet, but I think there's some down by Dana Point.
Yeah, so anybody can make a layer, and they can include whatever data they want in there. And right. I don't know anybody who keeps a list of all the available layers. So
no, I don't know that either. It would be nice to start, I'll start collecting them and putting them on my website as I find them. The restaurants layer was a great one. I would assume you could just Google custom map layers for Google Earth. Those are the ones that will work in ForeFlight.
Yeah, I know. So, I know a couple of TRACONs that have gotten together with the local flight schools and said these are the practice areas that we recognize. Yeah. That they ship out, things like that. So
yeah, and if you go to flight schools like UND, for example, they provide ForeFlight. They provide these layers that you toggle on and off, and they'll have practice area A, B, and C, and they're lined out on the chart as a map layer, and they know that they're going to that practice area and they all know where that practice area is because they all have it as a map layer in ForeFlight. A lot of flight schools do that, and it's a great tool.
And another question around this, Anthony, actually, it's a point. Anthony Kiggins makes the point that these custom layers are frozen in time. When you download them, ForeFlight will not automatically keep them up to date. So if you find out that one of these layers has been amended and updated, you need to go yourself manually to go and get them.
Very good point. That's absolutely true. You're getting it at a point in time, and if it's something that requires updating, like one of those restaurants might be closed since the time that that map layer was created. So the layers that ForeFlight has now, don't be confusing these, like all of these layers, as long as you're paying for an account, the sectional map, that is being updated. The IFR charts, those are being updated, but these custom content layers are not down here. These are my custom layers. These are custom layers. These ones at the bottom below the line. And again, you can edit those and all of that and get it back off your iPad here in custom content. Map layers, I have my own waypoints listed here. These are all waypoints that I've made, and then the custom charts that I have as well of these NOAA charts that are on there as well. I appreciate you guys coming. Thank you for attending. We'll see you at the next one. Look at the link below or the upcoming QR code. Scan that for Wings Credit, and we'll see you next month. Actually, it's going to be, I think, on next month's December, but January will not be on the first Monday because of the holiday. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you later.